because for my animal diversity module, I've been learning about bats, and I've been doing some research into various traits that bats have and the relationships between different types of bats. So this video is nearly about bats. So first of all, you have two different key types of bat. These aren't species, not to be confused with species, because species are the individual subdivisions between each divide. So these are just like the general categories. So you have Megachiropterans, terans I should say, because it's diopterans, that's May, and then you have Microchiropterans. Now I always find it's quite important to differentiate between these two key different divisions, because if we have a list of traits for one and have a list of traits for the other, it's far easier to follow than just having a mind map with traits for bats in general. Okay, so we have these two categories. Mega, as its name implies, are generally larger. However, the actual size range overlaps between micro and mega, so they're not actually. There are some microdiopterans. The biggest microdiopterans are far larger than the smallest megadiopterans, so that's quite an important thing to note. So this bit, although it implies a general sort of size, but that isn't the only distinguishing characteristic between these two different categories, and there are various ways to identify each type, which I'm going to go through with you now. So megadiopterans have large eyes to start with. You probably think that's quite basic. Well, why would that matter? If they were larger, they're bound to have large eyes. Well, not necessarily, because they're actually larger. The large eyes help get extra light into their eyes, and it's important for the megadiopterans to have that, because they actually use their eyes to actually visualise things. So you're probably thinking, well, what else is there to use? Well, microdiopterans use something called ultrasound. Because what they do is they bounce ultrasound waves off things and listen for the duration of time of the echo and the pitch, which can sort of enable them to navigate very accurately in dark situations. So microdiopterans have very sort of undeveloped eyes and don't really need to use eyesight to navigate themselves, because it's far better at night time to use ultrasound for them. Megadiopterans, although they're still nocturnal, they have larger eyes, which sort of every little bit of light that can get in their eyes, they're very sensitive and have sort of highly developed eyesight. There are various sort of advantages with having large eyes as opposed to ultrasound. Ultrasound uses up more energy, which for micro, as a sort of smaller in general, using up energy isn't necessarily a good thing. Although ultrasound you can navigate more accurately with, so it's very there are advantages and disadvantages with both. So I'll probably list some of those for you, just so you can remember. So with ultrasound, it uses more energy, but is also more sensitive, which makes it very useful for obvious reasons. Because when you're chasing after a moth, for example, late at night, you're going to want to have a sensitive sense to be able to actually see or sort of locate what you're looking for, not necessarily see. So these large eyes, less energy used. So why is this important for the larger ones, that they use less energy? Well, the larger ones actually don't hibernate, so these do not hibernate, which is very significant, because when you're hibernating, you're actually conserving energy anyway. So basically, because these aren't hibernating, that they would lose that period where these microdiopterans are dormant, and they'd still be hunting for their food and stuff, so they don't want to use too much energy. And that's sort of one of the key reasons why they have large eyes, to use light stimulus to sort of detect objects and stuff, because it uses less energy. That's one of the major advantages of being a megadiopteran in the winter. But having said that, because these do hibernate, it actually means that the microdiopterans don't have to worry about it, because they're not active during the winter anyway. That's quite a few of the good distinguishing features. If you have a look into sort of the general structure of the bats, they are similar, although the Microchiropterans are smaller. The sort of behaviour of bats, both of these babysit. That might be quite an unusual thing, but bats, because mother bats will obviously have to go and get some food and stuff, various other mother bats will help babysit the baby bats. It's very important to keep them warm, because otherwise they'd be sort of more inclined to freeze, basically, get too cold, body temperature drops. They're obviously going to run into problems. Like most mammals, they use enzymes and various regulatory systems which need to be kept within a sort of narrow temperature range, otherwise the enzymes will become denatured or inactive, and the bodily processes needed for general biochemistry and basic life cannot occur. So that's also quite an important point to note. There's a difference in the diet of these two bats. The mega ones tend to be like fruit bats and stuff, so obviously they eat fruit. They also eat plant matter, which sort of includes pollen. You wouldn't really think of that as a food source, but they do eat pollen. Whereas for like Microchiropterans, it tends to be more sort of small animal based, such as insects. Tends to be the primary sort of main constituent component of the diet of Microchiropterans. The other thing about bats is they have a very sensitive hearing as well. You probably not noticed with their ears, but they don't vary too much, the ears of these two different types, but they're both quite sensitive. But they tend to have quite sort of sensitive senses in general. The environments that they live in is slightly different as well, because the Megachiropterans, because they eat like fruit and things, they're likely to be found where fruit grows, which is going to be in more sort of tropical conditions. Whereas Microchiropterans, they don't have to be found in tropical conditions, so there's various sort of continents they're found on, but it's not sort of as restrictive as with the Megachiropterans, because they can only sort of survive in tropical environments. This also comes back to our point of hibernation. Because they're in a tropical environment, they don't actually have to worry too much about it getting that cold, because in tropical environments it tends to stay warmer in general. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. I may make another video on bats, sort of detailing some more of the sort of individual features. I hope you enjoyed it. It's something a bit different, but I hope you can sort of see how it may be quite useful if you're sort of looking into the relationships between various sort of organisms in biology. And bats are very specific, yes, but some of these features that you'll learn by watching these videos relating to like bats and other animals are sort of in common, and that they're sort of intertwined. Like, for example, there's one common feature I mentioned before I go, which is that bats and walruses, you wouldn't think they'd have anything in common, although a walrus, it delays fertilisation till the spring, so it has its baby when it's warm, and bats do exactly the same thing. So even completely unique animals have sort of some features that they share in common. So like learning these facts isn't just completely about bats. It can be applied to various other animals depending on their behaviour, and you start to see relationships between various categories and build like phylogenetic trees based on these similar and different traits, and like work out the sort of common ancestors of various different species. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.